Welcome back to Simbright Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew these beautiful scrunchy ruffles on a dress. So you can actually sew these ruffles on an off shoulder. You can also sew it on a shoulder. I even prefer having it in an off shoulder so it falls very well the way it's falling right here. So I'll be teaching you the technique to sewing these ruffles, either to be fuller or to be less, okay? So I use the candle organdy for this tutorial. So we have the lighter one, we have the thicker one. I had the thicker one and that is what I used. So if you want it to fluffy the way it is fluffing on the other one, you can just use the lighter one. So here you can see I have ruffled it, as you can see, and I need to tack in the parts I'm touching right there. So I made this dress for my little girl. So if this is what you want to learn in this class, I will encourage you to stay till the end of this tutorial. So right here I'm marking out my vertical lines from my shoulder to the full length. So I marked my chest line, my waistline, and then the skirt piece of this dress I used 34 inches. So I'll be adding it up when I'm cutting my fabric. So I've ruled my line. Here is my shoulder, my chest, my waistline, and then the full length or the skirt piece of this dress. So I am going to take my neckline. Actually, this neckline is supposed to be 5.5 inches. So I realized the shoulder should be very small. For you to have this effect, the shoulder part has to be very small. The neck depth I used 8 inches. You can even make it 8.5 inches. So I came down by 1 inch and I connected, and I also connected to get my armhole. I got my midpoint and I came in by 0.75. Then I took my bust divide by 4. I marked it, my waist divide by 4 on the waistline. And I added 1 inch for my dart. And I took my hip divide by 4. I connected. So right here, I'm connecting all the lines. And I'm going to complete my armhole line right away. So after completing my armhole line, we are going to use a basic dart for this dress. So I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurement on the chest line, on the waistline, and on the hem line. So I came down for my basic dart by 6 inches for the front. From the waistline, mark 6 inches. Then I'm going to share my basic dart, half inch, which is 1 inch in total. Then I'm going to connect my dart accordingly. So this is just what you need for this dress. So like I said, the neckline needs to be smaller, or you make it an off shoulder to have that effect. So after sewing this dress, I realized the neckline I have here was too big. So I'm going to draft the back. The back piece, I'm going to extend my shoulder line, my waistline, and my hemline. Like I said, we are using a basic dart right here. So the front length and the back length will be the same. So I added 1 inch for my zipper at the back, and I'm going to impute my measurements. So my shoulder divide by 2 I marked on the chest line and on the shoulder line, and I am going to use 5.5 inches for the width of my shoulder for the back. Then the depth of my shoulder for the back, I'm going to make it 4 inches. Okay, so please use 4 inches by 4, 5.5 inches. So that ruffle relaxes at the tip of your shoulder very well. So I got the midpoint and I came in by 1/2 inch and connected. So next is my bust circumference divide by 4. I connected, and I'm going to complete my armhole. So I'll go over to the waistline now. I'll mark my waist circumference divide by 4. I'm going to mark. I added 1 inch for my waist dart. I mark my hip divide by 4. And then I'm going to connect my dart for the back. But before that, I will contour by 1 inch. So you can see me contouring to avoid zip bulge. So this is how I contour. From the waistline, I come down and I'm going to cut off that piece. So the next thing is to replace the 1 inch we contoured on the side. So I added my 1 inch before I connected my bust to the waist and to the hem. So this is what I have for my pattern right now. So I divided my waist divide by 4 by 2 again to get my dart leg. So I mark my dart leg on the waist and the hem and on the chest line. So I'm going to rule my line. I'll come down by 5.5 for the back and mark, and I'll come up by 1 inch and mark. So my dart intake is 1 inch. I'll share it half an inch, and I'm going to connect accordingly. So the dart is ready and the back piece is ready. So the next thing we want to do now is, this is the back. You label them. This is the skirt piece from the waistline for the front and for the back. So after that, we are going to cut out this pattern. So I'm cutting out the pattern right away. So I go this way to cut it. So like I said, you can also make this dress an off shoulder. If you really need that fall, make it an off shoulder so it stays off on your shoulder like that. So here I'm separating the pattern for the upper piece and the down piece because we are going to join them together back just as it is on the video. So here is my center front unfold and my center back where we have the zipper. For the front, this is my center front, and for the back, this is my center back. So the next thing I'm going to do right away is to cut out my pattern pieces. So here, I've already cut out my pattern. The parts unfold, I added half an inch and my seam allowance is 1.5 inch. I also cut for the lining. So for this part, I have 4 pieces because I cut 2 times for each of them for back and front. So the down piece, I added 9 more inches, making it a total of 35 inches from the shoulder to the length. So it depends on the length of the dress, how you want it. If you want it short or you want it long. So here, I'm done with the cutting of my pattern pieces. We want to start sewing them immediately. So the first thing I want to do now is to sew the upper piece and the down piece together. So I'm going to sew them before we create the dart. I'm going to sew half an inch to join them, and I'll also do the same for the lining. So when I come back after sewing, we are going to sew the dart accordingly. So here I'm done sewing. So I did the same for the lining. So we are going to create the basic dart right now. So for the basic dart, this is what we have on the pattern. So I'm going to take the measurement of all I have right here, and that is what we are going to use to create it. So I folded my fabric from the center front and measured the dart leg, which is my nipple to nipple measurement. So once I got it, I took the length of my dart. That is exactly what I'm doing. So in other words, I'm just trying to recreate what I have on pattern on my fabric. So I'm doing this for those who are beginners in this class, okay? So if I were to make this dress without making a tutorial, I have my way of sewing the darts without going through the process of marking them. But if marking them will save you the stress, I will advise you to go by this method. So I'm marking them and I'm done marking right now for the fabric. I'll also repeat the same thing for the lining. So I'm going to pinch and stitch my basic dart accordingly. So here my lining, I've already marked it too. So I'm done stitching and you can see what I have for both of them. So coming over to the back, I'm going to first merge the back pieces together. So you make sure you merge all of them together before you proceed to the marking out of the darts. So I'm going to sew them accordingly. As you can see right here, this is what I got. So the next I will do is to sew my zipper for the fabric piece. So but before that, you have to match your zipper, your waistline accordingly, so you'll be able to get the zipper length. So from the waist, I always come down by 8 or 9 inches. Then whatever remaining, I'm going to stitch it. That is my zipper opening. So I'll go ahead and stitch at 1 inch, which I've done for lining and for fabric right away. Now I'm going to sew my zipper only on the fabric. So you can actually use any method of sewing that you like anyway, but I like to go by this method, okay? So I'm going to match my fabric together with my lining right side to right side with the zipper and I'm going to stitch the zipper line with my zipper foot, and I'm going to sew the neckline with my presser foot. So I'm going to match the necklines, and I'm going to show you the process at which you are going to use to stitch this dress right away. So I'll now go ahead and stitch 1/2 inch. Even the sleeve, we are going to stitch the sleeve. Okay, this is a sleeveless dress, and you need to have a neat finishing inside and outside. So I'm securing it with my pin right away, and I'll go over to stitch right now. So this is how I'm going to stitch. I'm going to mark out or chalk out the part I'm going to stitch. This 1/2 inch. Then I will skip the shoulder seam line, and I'm going to stitch the neckline 1/2 inch across the zipper. Then follow the zipper line and stitch. I will repeat the same thing on the left hand side or right hand side of this dress. So I'll go over to the machine now. After stitching, this is what I have. I'll just go ahead and chop off the zipper side so it's not bulky for me to turn. So I will go ahead and turn it accordingly. So you can use your hemming gum to stitch the neckline so that when you iron it, it sticks and it does not show the lining piece. Then I will encourage you to use your lining too, the same color with your fabric. So this is a tutorial. That's just why I'm using a mixed fabric for this tutorial. So here I'm done turning everything. I'm going to give it a good press. So for the front, I'll lay it right side to right side, and I'm going to merge the V neckline together, and I'm going to stitch the neckline first. So after stitching the neckline, don't forget to make a notch at that V part to ease it. Then I flip all my seams on the part of the lining and top stitch. After that top stitching, then I can now sew the armhole part. I'll sew the armhole, and make sure you make a notch to it so it turns very well for you. You can also go ahead and top stitch if you want. So here I'm done, and I gave it a very good press. So I just want you to watch how I'm going to turn the shoulder seam lines of this dress right now. So if you are making a sleeveless dress, this is how to go about the turning. So you are going to match the both of them together, pick 3 pieces of it. Then you are going to use 1 piece of it to turn it. So the 3 pieces I picked on the shoulder seam line, I'm going to secure them with my pin. So after securing it with my pin, making sure the shoulders are matching together. Then the part I left open, I'm going to turn it from the inside of the dress. So I will just push everything from the inside of the dress, and I'm going to stitch at 1/2 inch. So after stitching, this is what we got. You can see a very neat finishing inside and outside for this particular dress. Of course, this is not the main purpose of this tutorial. Many of us know how to make a basic gown like this, but I just thought of showing how I went about the sewing of this dress. So now I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other side. So I'm done with my finishing, and I'm going to join the sides. So I'll match the size, lining to lining and fabric to fabric, and I'm going to take off the 1.5 inch which I used for the stitching for the seam allowance. But before that, I would like to reduce my lining because I want the lining to be shorter than the fabric. So I'm cutting it off at 2 inches because we are going to serge that lining and hem the dress after joining. So I'll go ahead and join my dress and give it a good press. So after joining, this is what we got for the dress. You can see the lining is shorter, and I'll proceed to hemming it. But because this is a tutorial, we are going to jump right into the main purpose of this tutorial, which is the ruffles. So you are going to take the measurement of your neckline from the zipper line to the center front. The ruffles are sewn in 2 different places. So I took the measurement of what I got from the center back to the center front. So I'm going to multiply what I have by 4 inches. So whatever you have, divide by 36. So I'm going to use 3.5 yards for both sides. So these 3.5 yards, I also, organdy comes in 60 yards. So what I did is, the 3.5 yards, I folded it into 2, and I have a width of 30 inches. So you fold it into 2 and share it into 2. So you can use it for the right and for the left. So if you want more ruffles or more layers, you can get 7 layers of organdy and lay it layer by layer. So I'm going to pick up one to show you how I actually made this dress. So the 3.5 yards I shared into two, one of it I'm going to close it up, as you can see me demonstrate right now. So after stitching, this is what I got. So I left one part open to turn it. So I'm going to turn from that part, and that is where we are going to start our ruffles from. So after turning it, you can decide to give it a good press anyway. So this is it, and you can see the closed part and the upper piece. So I'm going to ruffle and ruffle this part into the neckline. So here on my machine, this is my neckline. So if you're making an off shoulder for it, this is how to go about. You spread up your neckline. So I'm just marking the lines, the midline where I'm going to lay the layers. You can make 3 layers of this, you can make 2 layers of it, you can make 1 layers of it. It depends on how much you actually want these ruffles to be, but I'm going to use 1 layer to demonstrate to you, the one I'm going to sew on the neckline. So I'm going to the center back now, and I'm going to tuck in the rough piece. The rough part I did not close. I will tuck it in, and I'm going to gather on the zipper line. So you keep gathering it on the zipper line like this. So I'm gathering the other part that is closed, that is open. So after I'm done gathering it, I'm still on the process of making sure everything goes in. So this is what I got after I'm done gathering. So next I'm going to do is to start gathering the upper piece on the neckline. So this fabric is actually thick. The organdy I use is thick. I'll advise you to get a softer one, please. So we have candle organdy, we have different kinds, different texture. A lighter one like the one in the thumbnail will be best for this project. So here you can see me gathering it on the neckline. Because it's actually very thick, it's trying to cover up what I'm doing. But I believe you are seeing what I'm doing. So I'm trying to ruffle this on the neckline. So once I got to the center front, I ruffle the closed parts. Okay, so you can see what I have, and these are the ruffles. So I brought the excess backwards. I had some excess, but I brought it backwards. So this is it. So the technique is just keep gathering it. Okay, keep gathering and make that part full as you want. So I am going to start up another one, the one on the right side. So I also tuck it in, and to the zipper part I try to ruffle, measure what I have on the other side, so it's the same with what I'm having on the other side, because they have to be equal. So I'll now go ahead and do what, and gather on the zip line. So I'll first gather the open part on the zip line. You know it's a squared fabric. The open part will be gathered in a square form. So once you are done making sure everything goes in like that, then we'll have the upper layer that was stitched close. So this upper layer that was stitched close right now, I will go ahead to gather it on the neckline. So you can see I'm gathering it on the neckline now. So you keep gathering it until you complete the process, or to the extent you have taken your measurements. So I will keep gathering like that. So I'll keep gathering till I get to the center front. So once I get to the center front, then the closed edge, I'll also keep it in a rectangular form and also gather it the way I gathered the other one. So I'm just trying to show this whole process so you'll be able to understand what I did. So now this is the center front. I kept it in a squared form and also gather it. So if you are making yours, just make sure you watch this video tutorial. It's actually self-explanatory. So I'll keep gathering it like that, like that. So the technique is you need to gather it on the dress before we now pick it. We are going to use our needle and thread to ruffle it, to make the scrunchy ruffles. So here I'm done gathering it right now. So here is what I have at the center front. You can see how the gathers are. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to start making the ruffles. So I'm making sure I gather it appropriately before we take it to the table to ruffle. So this is what I got now after gathering the piece. So if you want more layers, like I said, just keep putting the layers. As the one we have on the video, they kept putting and putting like that. So you just keep adding these layers, keep adding them, till you are satisfied. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'll bring in my needle and thread. Make sure you open up the organdy. So you can see how I'm opening up the organdy. So I will use my needle and thread. I will start off from one point. Make sure you knot that point. Any point you are starting, make sure you knot it very well, or else if the thread is off, the scrunchies are off. So you can see how I'm picking it. So you'll be opening the organdy and then you will go ahead to be making your scrunchies. I believe you understand what I'm doing. So you can see I'm just putting my needle and thread. As I'm dragging the thread, the ruffles are being created. So when you are gathering, please don't drag too much so you don't drag the neckline together. So you can see that is it. I'll keep making the ruffles like that, like that. So if you want more ruffles, add more fabric. And if you want the fluffy look, use light organdy. That is the technique. This one is actually thick and is not really as fluffy as I wanted, but at least you have learned the technique to making this dress. Then if you want it to fall more, make sure you use an off shoulder. It will give a better effect than the shoulder, or you make your neckline 5.5 by width. So here is how I made those ruffles, and I believe you learned the technique right now. So by the time I get to the end of the ruffles, I'm also going to show you how to finish it up. So the thread is the ruffles, and if you secure it properly, it will also secure the ruffles too. So I'm done on one side and I want to start up the other side. So the other side is the same technique I used for the right side, I'm going to use for the left side. So I just thought of showing what I'm doing from beginning to the end without skipping any parts. So I keep sewing, as you can see, with my needle and thread like that, making the ruffles like that. So as I'm making the ruffles, I'm also arranging it. If there are the parts that are not well ruffled, I'll just go ahead and ruffle. So at the end of it, this is how I tied it. You push in your tray to the back and secure it very well. So that is exactly what I did, or else the ruffles will scatter. So I'm done with the ruffles, and you can see how beautiful they are. So this is just an illustration to show you how you can make this dress. So you can go ahead and make it to your taste. So we have gradually come to the end of this tutorial, and I believe this class was helpful to you. So if this class was helpful to you, please drop your comment on the comment section. If you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, turn on your notification bell to receive videos like this every day. Like this video, share to family and friends, and drop your comments on the comment section like I earlier said. Okay, so we have tutorials on this channel every day. So if you turn on your notification bell, you'll be easily notified when videos are being posted on this group. So here you can see the ruffles are looking so beautiful. So I keep picking them because the thread is the ruffle, like I earlier said. So this crunchy ruffle can be used for anything. It looks so gorgeous. After making your dress, attaching it makes your dress look wonderful and gorgeous. So here I'm knotting it, as you can see. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to Simbright Fashion Academy YouTube channel. Like this video, share to family and friends, and drop your comments on the comment section and your suggestions as well. Thank you once again, and see you in the next one. Bye.